I've always been alone. I don't belong to any group. I was a communist once, but that was mainly for company. I'm not a communist anymore. I'm alone. I've really and truly been meeting some very interesting people since I've been in here. Educated, I mean. Ministers, doctors, lawyers. You see, I've only ever mixed with the poorer classes, so communication has been a little bit difficult for me on account of my intelligence. But I'll tell you what, since I've been in here, in prison, I've only dealt with top quality. Before, people used to say to me, why do you talk so much? You're always talking. But now they want to know details, personal things. I've had to think of every single day in my life, of where I've been and why I've been there. I've had to explain. And as I've been explaining, my whole life has appeared to me as a series of patterns that now fit together, pieces that fit together. I now know that my entire life has been leading up to this story. Like most stories, mine starts with my mother at the beginning. Everything starts with the mother. There's the psychiatrist, Dr. Zabo. He's asking me question after question all about my mother. He's particularly concerned about this issue with my mother. And really, I would like to tell him whatever I know. Only problem is I don't know very much about her at all. I don't have a photograph or a picture of my mother, something to hold in my hand. Nothing. I once went up to Lorenzo Marques to see if I could find or anything of her, like her gravestone or something, but nobody could help me. Between you and me, I don't think anybody wanted to help me. Because between you and me, my mother was a mixed woman. And people can get a little bit funny about that sort of thing, as if God doesn't know how to mix a woman properly. But I'll tell you what, it mixed me up a bit, the way they kept on going on about it. I sometimes say, my mother left home before I was born. It was almost like that, you see, because when my mother fell pregnant, my father fired her as if it was her fault. And now she doesn't have a place to rest. Nobody knows where she lies. You know, when I was 1 year old, my father sent me to my grandmother in Egypt. But then she died when I was 6 years old, so I came back to Lorenzo Marques. And then I met my stepmother. She hated me, that woman. I don't know why. I've been thinking about it, and I think it's because I reminded her that Daddy was sleeping with the maid. I reminded her of that little interaction. Because, you know, when I was a young boy with my yaya, I thought I was Greek. My yaya was Greek, and I thought my stepmother, I must be Greek. My stepmother is Greek. And you know, when I was 6 years old, I loved Greek music. I remember Mrs. Sedaris, she had a house up at the top of the hill, a big house and a big lounge and a big record player. And I didn't ask permission or anything because we never had a record player at home. But I walked into the lounge and I took a record and I put it on the record player, and then I closed my eyes and then I listened for the Greek music, and then it started playing and I started dancing in the lounge. And then Mrs. Sedaris came into the room. What you doing, More? Leave it alone. Get out of here! You're just like your bloody mother. Tushu, Bayobedo, mulatto. You mulatto, your mother mulatto. I didn't understand. You? Actually, I had to wait a number of years longer before I found out what a mule was. I must have been about 13 or 14 at school in Lorenzo Marques. And now not only Greek music, I used to sing and dance, Ella! Hey! γυαλό, βάρκατο του πουλί και βασιλικό, and they were clapping and singing, and the children were saying, come, 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 come and look at Mimi, she's singing and dancing, look, look at her. Βάρκα στο γυαλό, βάρκατο του πουλί και βασιλικό, and we were clapping and singing and dancing and laughing, but then nothing but a lousy colored. And then the children ran away, and then the boys, they started kicking me and hitting me. Όσεις Χριστόν ευαπτίστητε, Θεόν ενεβήσαστε, And then Benjamin Levy, he started kicking me and hitting me. He broke my nose right here. Όσεις Χριστόν ευαπτίστητε, Θεόν ενεβήσαστε, I remember there was a little girl standing there, and she said to me, don't worry about them. They're only doing that because they're jealous of you. It was really good of her to say that. It was nice of her, you know. That little girl, she reminded me of Helen Daniels. But it was still sore. Yeah, my nose. It's the same place where they broke my nose the other day, you know, in Parliament after what happened. Imagine having your nose broken in the same place twice. What a coincidence. To think that a few weeks ago I was nothing, I was a nobody, I was selling trinkets in the streets of Cape Town. But now, excuse me, I'm having my nose broken by members of Parliament. And I'm talking to ministers and doctors and lawyers. They're a different class of person. Educated. You can see it immediately. So that's how I found out I wasn't white. And that's how I found out what white people thought of colored people. That's how I found out that I probably would never have any friends, which I don't. But you know, the one thing I regret more than anything else in the world is never ever having kissed a girl. I would have liked that. Just once. Maybe Helen Daniels. I would have liked to have kissed her just once. That would have been nice. Maybe then things would have been different. going to be a boxer once. Every afternoon after school, I'd come home, I'd fight. I'd train hard, I'd work hard because I wanted to be strong, I wanted to be tough, I wanted to fight back. And I would have been the best. But I got sick, you see. I had this tapeworm growing inside of me, and it was eating everything I was eating. I would eat and eat and eat, but I'd still stay just this thin. This Portuguese doctor came and he gave me some medicine, and when I squatted down, out it came. This long, thin worm, about 2-3 foot cis. And the doctor said, we must keep it so that we can see if the head is out or not. But my stepmother, she wouldn't listen to me. She took it and she flushed it down the toilet. No, no, no. The doctor said we must keep it because we must see if the head is out or not. We have to... Now we won't know if the head... Because of that, I knew the head was still inside because when I grew hungry, it got hungry too. And then it started eating me. It's funny, you know, I would never have remembered all these things if Dr. Zaba wasn't asking question after question. Dr. Zaba, his particular interest in my mother. I would never have remembered the tapeworm or Mrs. Sedaris or the Portuguese doctor. Yeah, Dr. Zaba. You can see he's educated, and it's really very good of him to show such concern, such interest. Yes, Dr. Zaba. Yes, the worm may have had something to do with it, yes. No. The worm did not tell me to kill the Prime Minister, no. But even if it did, Dr. Zaba, what's to say, which it didn't, what's to say that there wasn't a worm inside the worm telling it what to do, Dr. Zaba? I mean, where does all communication begin? Where does all language start? Where do all messages begin? Aren't all messages a form of communication, Dr. Zaba? But from whom? Yeah, Dr. Zaba. He always sits at the edge of his seat, looking at me intently. He's got these big eyes and thick glasses, waiting to hear what I'm going to say next. And you know, he's not the only one asking me questions. There's this Major Rousseau. He's also asking me questions. But he is not at all interested in my stepmother or the tapeworm or Mrs. Sedaris or anything. All he wants to know is what groups I belong to, what associations I'm affiliated to. And really, I can see how frustrated he's getting, and I would like to help him, but like I said, I don't belong to any groups. I was a communist once for a small, short time. I'm not a communist anymore. I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. I'm not liberal. I'm not anarchist. I'm not left-wing. I'm nothing. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe I didn't stay in one place long enough to meet people and to join groups and associations. But I've traveled this world. I know this place inside out. I know how this whole place works. Because I've traveled to Egypt, and I've traveled to Israel, and I've been to Germany, and I've been to Greece. I've been to America and Canada. I've even been to Sweden. They have many beautiful blondes there. And that's all I ever wanted to be. Blonde and beautiful. like the captain on the ship. Blonde and beautiful. Steering the ship, looking for what lies out there, searching for new adventures. Steering the ship with the compass, searching for what lies out there. grew tired of this adventurous journey. You see, because all I ever wanted to do was to come back home, to come back here to South Africa. You know all those countries I told you about? Every time I arrived in the country, I'd go straight to the embassy to apply to come back home because I wanted to come back to South Africa to live, to take life, to get married, to buy a house with a garden, to open up a small shop maybe, to have children, watch the children go through school, watch Helen growing old next to me. To live. And all those countries, every time I applied, they said no. 1946, 47, 48, they said no. 50, 59, 62, they said no. They had my name on a list, on a blacklist. It's probably because I joined that bloody Communist Party way back when. I was in exile. My name on the list. An outcast. I couldn't come back. And actually, I actually got quite desperate. Isn't it funny that the more desperate you get, the less people want to have anything to do with you? It's crazy. You would think it'd be the other way around. That the more desperate you got, the more willing people would be to help you, to be there for you. Not people. I think they see the desperation in your eyes and then they just run away. Not people. Not the South African government. And you know, it's one thing being rejected by one person. By a whole country, a whole nation. It's not very nice. So really, all I ever wanted to do was to come back in. Now I'm well and truly in there. No, is ek diep in die kak. Now I can't get out. Might not be in here forever. That's not very crazy. Can you tell me why they do this to me? Can you tell me? Why do they hurt me like this? Did you see me do anything to them? Did you see me hurt them? You know, all my life, all I have ever wanted to do was to help people. I've never ever wanted to hurt anybody. I've only wanted to help people. Let me give you an example. Before I got that job as a messenger at the Houses of Parliament, I was working on a diamond dredging ship. And I remember late at night, I'd go up to the top of the deck, right to the edge, and I'd stand there looking out at the sea, far into the distance. And then I'd close my eyes and I'd listen to the crashing of the waves and I'd breathe in the salt sea air, feel it blowing on my face. And then I'd look out again at the distance. And then I would imagine what it must have been like to have been Volrad Voltamada, who went out there into the sea, braving the treacherous waves to save all those people, to save all those souls from the shipwreck. And you know what? He had a horse. He had a big horse. He had a big, strong horse. And then I imagined that I had a big, strong horse. And that I was Volrad Voltamada, going out there into the storm to save those souls from the shipwreck. Hold on, my friends, I'll save you. I'm here, I'll save you. Hold on to my ship, hold on to my horse. Here, take my hand. Hold on, my friend. Hold on, I'll save you. Ships. He told my boss, and then my boss told me I couldn't work there anymore. And I was so upset because I was only playing. And besides, it was such a stupid job, a stupid menial job. You know, all my life I've had these stupid menial jobs. I've never had a proper job. I've been a waiter and a boiler maker and a clerk. Stupid jobs. I've never had a real job like teaching. I could have taught languages. You know all those countries I told you I went to? I can speak all those languages. I'll count the way. 12. I speak 12 languages. Did you know that? I could have taught languages. I could have taught from the Bible. Actually, I did teach from the Bible once. But it was very strange because I'd be talking to people and they didn't seem very interested, and they would just go away. They'd walk away, or they'd tell me to go away. And they never ever said please. Very rude, and that confused me. It was strange because I just wanted to share with them the truth. Because these words, they had a very profound meaning in my life. I would have been dead a long time ago if it wasn't for religion. You see, because I thought, maybe if I could be somebody, a hero or a teacher or something, then maybe people would look beyond the other things. I mean, let me give you an example. Let's take Jesus. You know those Semitic people? I don't think they were white. They were more Mediterranean-colored skin like me, right? They weren't worried about the color of Jesus' skin. No. Why? Because he was a hero. He was a somebody. He was a teacher. A somebody. But when you're a nobody, when you're a nothing, a wanderer, wandering, then people make a lot of the color of your skin, of your race. And the problem with me, I've got a little bit of everything and not a lot of anything. I've got a little bit of German, a little bit of Shangaan, a little bit of Greek, a little bit of Portuguese, and I don't know what else. Maybe things would have been better if I was 100% white or 100% black, but I'm not. And the problem with my arrangement is that neither the whites nor the blacks want to have anything to do with me, you see, because I'm not one of them. I don't belong to them. I don't belong to their group. You see, it's back to this group nonsense again. What group you belong to, this group or that group, what does it matter? I know there have been quite a few different accounts of how I got to Cape Town. It's just that I've been very, very confused at that point in my life. I joined the Church of Christ, a group called the Church of Christ. Yes, and I received a letter through someone in the church. A letter. It was a brown envelope with a stamp on it, a Cape Town stamp. Table Mountain Major and it was addressed to me, and it was posted. It was given to me by the pastor in the church, and it had my name on it, and it was posted. It was not sealed. It had a stamp on it. Sorry, there's a mistake there. No, it was not the voice of the worm that made me do it. It was not the voice of a group either. This was a different voice altogether. This was the voice of reason. Was the voice of science. This was the voice of evolution. And you know, I've known about this for a very long time. there should be no mixing. 100% separate and apart. 100% purity. He believed in 100% purity. Now I ask you, how can you have growth and change and evolution without mixing? Purity is like incest. It makes you weak, sick, deformed. And I've known about this for a very long time now. I remember once, in 1964, I was in Mozambique, and I was in this bar, and I was looking around at the people in the bar, and it was a period in my life where I was feeling particularly positive about the future. And yes, I was a little lightheaded, but I was looking around at all the people, and I thought, I must talk to them. I must tell them what I know, what I understand, my comprehension, my vision. I must talk to them. And that is what I did. Right there and then. In the bar, I stood up on the table and I said to them, a time will come when this will all come to an end. We are Africans. We'll have a flag with a rainbow on it. And all those many colors on the rainbow, they'll represent the many colors of our nation. Look at the color of my skin, my friends. Look. This is why the blacks and the whites won't have anything to do with me. The answer is not in the staying apart, it's in the coming together. We must mix our flesh and blood. We must mix. And then one day, everybody, we'll all be bastards! Bastards! That's evolution! Bottles and the glasses on the table. They even called the police. They wanted to get to me. But I didn't care. Because it was the truth. The truth. Yeah, this question of what color I am and what race I belong to, what group I belong to, it's caused me a lot of problems in my life. Because you see, at first, I was classified colored because of my mamaka, my mom. But then I was reclassified white because my father sent me down here to the Transvaal for my schooling, to join my stepbrother and my stepsisters for my schooling. And then I was classified white. And that would have been fine. I told you I always wanted to be blonde. But then, something happened to change all that. Helen happened. Helen Daniels. She was so beautiful. You know, before I met her, I thought things had finally started to change. I had gone to the embassy once again, and I applied for a visa to come back to South Africa, and for some reason the person checking the form, and he didn't check the blacklist. Or maybe I should say the half-colored list, but anyway, he didn't check the list, and my name wasn't there. I was allowed back in. I could come back to South Africa. I came back home, and then I was so happy when I saw that view of Table Mountain again. I got a job as a clerk, and then I joined the Church of Christ to study the Bible through them. Actually, now that I come to think of it, they were the one true invisible crowd I ever belonged to. And it was through them that I started writing letters, long letters to this young woman in Cape Town, whose name was Helen Daniels. Long letters we'd write to each other. And you know how you can tell a woman's writing by her script, by the delicate fragrance and asked her to marry me in a letter. For the 2 weeks waiting for her reply, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't focus. It was as if I was walking, but I couldn't feel the ground. It was as if I was floating in thin air, and I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't feel my body. As if I was in a haze. And then 2 weeks later, it arrived. A long brown envelope with a stamp on it, Table Mountain. I recognized it immediately, addressed to me in Helen's beautiful handwriting. And I remember when I opened it, there was just one page. Beautiful fragrance of Helen's letters, and on that page there was written one word, and that word was job. And I went straight down to Cape Town. And I waited on the platform at the station. I had an old suitcase with some old clothes in it, some pots and pans, a second pair of shoes, and 2 volumes of grammar. And I stood and I waited, because I was going to wait for Helen and her parents and meet them and stay with them until the wedding. The day grew long. At first I got worried. I thought that maybe they got lost or forgotten or got stuck or something. Then the sun set and the moon rose and it grew cold, and I was really frightened because I didn't know anyone else in Cape Town. I was going to stay with Helen and her parents until the wedding. Do you know what happened? They didn't get lost. They hadn't forgotten anything. They hadn't changed their minds. No. They were waiting for me on a different platform because Helen Daniels was colored just like my mother. I was so surprised. I mean, I could see how surprised they were when they found me on the whites platform. And then I explained to Mr. Daniels that I used to be colored and I've changed to white. I could change back. And now being white and Helen being colored, that I understood that there was no question of us getting married, but I could go to talk to the Department of Home Affairs. I had changed before I could change back. I'll go and talk to the Department of Home Affairs, which is exactly what I did. And I remember when I was in the waiting room at the Department of Home Affairs, I thought, why must I get this ID book, this book that says that I belong to this group or that group, this invisible crowd. And then, but when I was thinking about this, I suddenly noticed there was this huge plant here with big green leaves, and the leaves were covered with dust, so I dusted the leaves, and I watched the dust rise and billow up into the light. And then I thought of a perfectly reasonable solution. When it was my turn to go and talk to the man in the Department of Home Affairs office, I would ask him for an open identity. Perfectly reasonable solution. So that's what I did when it was my turn. And he was sitting behind the table with this big fat man with big glasses and big eyes. He reminded me of Dr. Zaba, but anyway. And he was sitting there, and then I explained to him this concept of mine, of an open identity. And he looked at me. And he looked at his shoe. And then he looked at me. And then he took off his glasses and he put them on the table. And he put his hands on the table and he lifted himself up. wanting to cause problems, eh? And I said, no, I don't want to cause problems at all. It's just that I need to be white so that I can get a good job, but I need to be colored so that I can marry the woman I love. And then again, I explained to him this concept of the solution, this reasonable solution of an open identity. And he didn't say anything. He just put his glasses back on and he sat down and he carried on doing whatever he was doing before I came in. And then I just stood there and it felt very strange because it must have been 10, 15 minutes. I didn't know what to do. And I thought, well, I just better leave. As I got to the door, I heard him say under his breath, "Nou, hoekom wil jy met 'n meid na in elk geval, man? Sis tog!" I couldn't turn around, I couldn't say anything. I just my throat was stuck. I fled out that door, down the stairs, and then I was walking in the streets. And as I was walking in the streets, I thought of my mother, and how she cleaned my father's floors, and how she washed his clothes, and how she cleaned his socks, and how she loved him, and how she probably thought that he loved her. But when she fell pregnant, he just finally threw out. And then now she doesn't have a place to rest. Nobody knows where she lies, no grave. The wind, it dried the tears on my face as I ran, and when I got back to Mr. Daniel, I explained to him what had happened, and he breathed a deep sigh, and he said that, well, maybe I shouldn't stay in the house any longer because, well, it was against the law, right? I mean, what could I do? I couldn't argue, I couldn't complain, I couldn't cry, I couldn't do anything. There's only one thing to do. That was to leave on a cold Thursday morning. My one love, my one true hope. I never saw her again. And now I started getting angry. All this ivy book nonsense. I mean, how can it be right? It can't be right that you can't kiss. You know what? Things would have been very different with a different government. I didn't like this for good from the beginning. You know why? On account of him being a foreigner. A foreigner. Why can't we get a South African to run the country, man? And I don't blame these guards for being as angry. They're also in here 24 hours out of 24 staring at four walls, blank walls. It's enough to make anybody crazy. I'm going to eat because remember the worm I told you about the head of the worm that stayed inside of me when I was a little boy. Well, when I get hungry, it gets hungry too. So I'm going to eat now. When I get hungry, and it would get hungry too, it would writhe and slide and cause me great pain, right here, spasms just by my stomach. So bad I had to be admitted to hospital many times when I was looking for work, looking for food, looking for a country. You know, when the world is ugly, makes me angry. When everything you ever believed in it to be real and true and just changes, and then the family once again asks you to pack your bags, and then once again you're looking for work, looking for food. not something that happened overnight. It has been right through my life to this point. I have been a different race in different parts of the world at different parts of my life. And that has been very strange. I've been living in strange lands. I've been a foreigner. Even here, in South Africa, I have felt like a foreigner. Yeah. Sometimes I think, even though this worm has caused me great pain, I sometimes think that maybe it led me to do something worthwhile. So sometimes I think I regret it. I'm sorry. Darkness creeps in on me. It surrounds me. And it creeps in on me and it seeps into my pores. And then it comes down here and it goes in here to my stomach, and then I try to shit it out, to push it out, this horror. But it smells so bad. It smells. And then the darkness, it creeps in again, and it comes back, darkness and depression, and then it comes down here, and then hardens, like a scab, like a shell. I can hear people talking. They're talking there, but I can't hear what they're saying. I must keep on talking. I must keep on moving. There was never any love at home. My stepmother hated me. She hated me because I wasn't pure, and I reminded her that my father wasn't pure either. She wanted to punish me. Before I came down to the Transvaal for my schooling to join my stepbrother and my stepsisters, my stepmother made my uncle her brother. She made him rid me of my masculine qualities. He raped me on the table. I'm sorry. when this little business is over, I don't think I'd like to stay in Cape Town any longer, no. And if they offer me my job back as a messenger at the Houses of Parliament, I won't accept it, no. I don't want to stay in Cape Town any longer. I don't find the people in Cape Town very friendly. Sometimes more or less feel my body. It feels as if I'm in a haze. As if I'm floating in thin air. After what happened with Helen, I was still living in Cape Town. Well, I got a job as a messenger at the Houses of Parliament, you see. And I was staying in the small room. And outside the room there was this long corridor, a boarding house. And at the end of the corridor there was a toilet. And I remember sitting in this room alone and hungry and in pain because the worm was hungry too, and it was writhing and sliding and causing me great spasms, and I was depressed and frightened and not eating, and I was so scared that I couldn't go to the toilet. It was just too far down the corridor, so I would wee in a Coke bottle, and at night when no one was looking I would throw it out. I must have stayed in the room like that for a week, alone and in pain and frightened. But then, one morning when I got up, when I woke up, I saw the sun shining into the room. The rays were warm on the linen. I remember looking into the light and seeing all these millions and millions of dust particles floating in thin air like all the worlds of the universe. And then I realized something. And all my fear was gone. I realized that I was suffering because of my mother. I was suffering because of myself. I was suffering because of Helen. I was suffering because of a piece of paper. Because of one man who had called us by name. Who had decreed that we shall have forever written in our ID books that we belong to this group or that group. This invisible crowd. We were named by verbod. And I realized that if this man continued splitting up the people of the world, then very soon every group, every pair, everyone would be split apart. All identities would be split apart into single entities, and then those single entities in turn, they would collide with other entities, splitting them apart, and then there would be no more unity in the world, because there'd be like an atomic explosion, an atomic reaction. There'd be no more unity in the world. And this I realize is evil, because there must be unity. There must be a coming together of people, of groups, of families, of friends, countries, coming together, not split apart. realized that if this man continued splitting up the words of the world, then very soon there'd be nothing left but millions and millions of dust particles floating in thin air. I had no more fear. I realized what it was that I had to do. This man was strong, but he had to be stopped. This called for sacrifice. Like Volrad Voltamada, who went out there into the sea to save as many of those souls as he could before the waves closed in over him. Like Jesus. This called for sacrifice. Now, I'm not a violent person. I have never, ever lifted my hand to man or beast. Though I've been beaten by fist and foot and blade, I have never, ever raised my hand to man or beast. I've never handled a gun before. I've never handled a knife before. But this called for sacrifice. I knew what it was that I had to do. So I bought a gun from these Greek sailors. But they sold me a toy pistol, and when I tried to get my money back, they wouldn't give me my money back. So I went back to the room, and I gathered all the money I had, and I dressed in a grey suit. And very first thing the next morning, I went downtown city centre, Cape Town, before the shops opened, and I waited. And when the shops opened, I tried to buy a gun, but I couldn't, on account of not having a permit. So I bought 2 knives. One from Raw Bones and one from City Guns, just to be sure. And I put them here, under my jacket. And then I went back to the Houses of Parliament, where I was working as a messenger. And today I had a very important message to deliver to Dr. Hendrik French Verwoerd from me, Dimitra Tsafendas, before he would address the nation. I remember the bell still ringing when I got back to the Parliament. I remember the bell still ringing to call the people in for the afternoon session. I remember the bell still ringing when I followed him into the chambers. Now, messengers are not allowed into the chambers, but I walked right in. I was focused. I knew what I had to do. It was now. It was time to talk. It was time to deliver. And I'm following him, and I'm walking, and he's walking, and I'm reaching for the knife. But there's a lock for something, and it's stuck, and I'm struggling, and people are now staring, and the bells are ringing, and still he's walking, and still I'm struggling. Still people are staring, and the seconds are passing like the slow turn of an ox-wagon wheel. And still I'm struggling. Bells are ringing, he's walking, and now he's seated behind his desk. Still bells are ringing, people are staring, and then I get the blade loose. Then, behind the blade, I go down. Lungs, shoulders, all my life, I knew there must have been a reason why I was always alone. And this is the reason. If I wasn't alone, I would never have got that job in Parliament. If I wasn't alone, I would never have got so close to him. If I wasn't alone, I'd have to worry about my family, my wife, my children. But I was alone. A lone soldier. Cut loose. Adrift. On my own private mission. And they couldn't stop me. The lawyers convinced the court that I was living in my own strange creations. The judge called me a furiosus. Mad dog Dimitri. Furiosus. So now I'm the one who's classified as sane. And Dr. Verwoerd is the sane one. Although Major Piet van der Bijl once called Verwoerd a paranoiac. So, I am not the only one who's been called crazy. And it hasn't been easy in here, in Pretoria Central. In this cell. Right here by the gallows. I sometimes hear them hanging 6 at a time. Right here, I hear their last screams. And the guards, they're continuously punishing me for what I did. They throw water on my bed, they spit in my food, they sometimes put me in a straitjacket. And then they just beat me and beat me and beat me until I pass out. It's like a game they play. To see who can be the cruelest. 4 or 5 times a day. But the worst has got to be when they urinate in my tea. Can you believe it? They do that. They urinate in my tea. I'd really like 1 cup of real tea. That would be nice. So there's no more wondering for me. No more wondering where I'll be next, looking for food, looking for work, looking for a country, looking for life. I don't know what else. Maybe the cell is what I was looking for. Maybe I did get the head of the worm after all. Dr. Verwoerd was an immoral man, so I stabbed him with a knife. Maybe I did do something worthwhile. Something my mother would be proud of. Maybe I did do something that helped Helen. Maybe it helped other people.